and gentlemen, because it's a poker channel, you're going to learn how to play poker. Today, that's my plan, is I'm going to teach each and every one of you out there how to play poker. So let's go ahead, and without further ado, let's get started. First of all, this is going to start at the absolute beginning. You don't need to know anything about poker to learn how to crush the fucking tables. Part 1 will be for absolute beginners. It's going to cover all the really simple stuff. Part 2 is a little bit more advanced concepts. It's going to be like how to win. Our goal is to be able to crush the play money tables. Now, I know you people in the States, you can't really play for real money, and that's okay because play money's still fun to play with. And my goal here in this little thing here is to get you to be able to go into those play money tables and take their money and win. I'm also going to do it with the least amount of math possible. Actually, there's almost no math in it. It's all basically just to get you going. So let's go ahead and rock it on down. First of all, why do I need to learn how to play? Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that question. There's a couple reasons why you need to learn how to play. First of all, is that actually, when I was writing this up, I just realized how much fucking shit you have to write down to explain to somebody how to play poker. So there's actually a lot of material. It's probably going to take the better part of an hour, but that's okay. We'll have gameplay examples and everything like that. Everything's cool. The second thing is that since poker is based on probabilities, you can draw the wrong short-term conclusions when you just start playing, and you start playing your cards and you win and you lose, and you can't really draw any conclusions because all you're looking at is just that specific situation. So let me give you a couple examples of what I mean. Say like I'm an average golfer, and I get to play Tiger Woods like 100 times. We go out and we play 118 hole courses against Tiger Woods. Me, who I can hit the ball, but I'm pretty bad at putting and I'm pretty bad at everything. And I play Tiger Woods. Well, Tiger Woods is going to beat me 100 times out of 100. It's absolutely sure. He's so much better than me. The thing is about poker, though, is that you can be like an average player and go up against a world champion, and you can win in the short term. So you might just think, well, that guy's not that good, really. You say he's a world champion, but I beat him. Well, maybe you did one time, but if you played him 10 or 15 times, just like Tiger Woods, except he wouldn't win 100 times. He would win like 70 times, and you would win 30, or he'd win 75 times. You'd win 25. But, you would win. You'd win some money out of 100 times. So the other example I want to give is the ace-ace example. Now, without even knowing anything, I'll just tell you the pair of aces is the best hand in Texas no hold'em. Texas no limit hold'em. But say like you didn't have any training and you got aces and you bet them, and then somebody calls, and then the cards come down and it turns out, well, finally your aces didn't win. Like the guy had a worse hand, but he got lucky. So then you play him again and you raise again, and then like the book says, you should raise with aces. When you get aces, you should raise with them or even re-raise. So say like a guy, bets a lot of money and you re-raise, and then he goes all in. You go, well, I got aces, I go all in, and he's got like jacks, pair of jacks. Well, the cards come down and there's a jack that gives him 3 of a kind. He wins and your aces lose. So then you do that like again, and you do it again, and maybe just keep on losing. I mean, it's possible that your aces can keep on losing. And so if you didn't have any training, you would just go, well, man, that's wrong advice that they gave me in that book. They said to raise, but I just keep losing money. But in fact, the book is right, and you're just getting like bad luck. So the thing is, you just have to remember what the book says, or remember what the training says, and forget about like what actually happens. So that's the first thing. That's mainly the reason why you need to know, is because it really helps to have some basic concepts that will steer you clear of making like big mistakes that can become endemic. Because say like you play like 9-6 and you win like 3 times with it, and you go like, well, 9-6 my lucky hand, ha ha ha, and then you start playing and you start losing a lot because 9-6 is really not that good of a hand. Anyway, whatever. So moving on. So in part 1, we're going to take a look at the absolute basic shit, hand rankings and the kicker. Then we'll look at the rules of the game, the betting rules, some abbreviations that we're going to be using later on. We'll explain what a tournament is and how you play it, and then we'll move on with some gameplay examples, which is going to cover all that stuff. All right. So everybody, nobody, probably everybody's left at this point here. But whatever, let's move it on down the line here. First of all, without further ado, the hand rankings. Now, the only thing, I mean, it's pretty much evident and most people know like the hand rankings, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But what I do want to talk about is like the concept of the kicker. Like the kicker is the next card, like say like you've got a pair of aces. Well, what's the next biggest card that's going to like, you know, help your hand? Like say like if you've got a pair of aces and you've got the next card you have is like a jack, and the other guy got a pair of aces, and the next card he's got is a queen, well, the other guy wins. You both have aces, but his queen kicker is better than yours, so you lose. Same thing with two pair. If you're possible, it is possible to have two people with two pair, and in which case you look at the next card, and whoever has the biggest card wins. Three of a kind, there's never any fuck ups because basically you can't have two people with three of a kind. That's six of that, so you can't do it. Straight, since all five cards, you don't really talk about a kicker, but say like if one guy got a 7 and another guy got an ace, well, the 7 wins because it's a 7 high kicker, a 7 high straight, and the other guy just has a 5 high straight. Same thing with a flush. If you have the ace of clubs and the other guy has a king of clubs and there's 4 clubs out there on the board, well, you win because you have a bigger card. The full house is whoever wins has got the biggest part of the 3. Whoever has the trips part, whoever's biggest there. I mean, 4 of a kind, you have good luck. Straight flush is all the same colors, whatever. All that stuff you can't be beat, basically. You're not going to be beat. I mean, unless you're incredibly lucky. All right? Are there any questions? All right. Well, anyway, I'll just keep on going and I'll look again. All right. Now, here's how the game goes. You get 2 cards to start, and then everybody bets. And that's called the pre-flop phase. Then 3 cards come down in the middle, and everybody gets to use those cards. And those 3 cards are called the flop in poker. And that will make your 5-card hand. In other words, the 2 cards that you already got, plus those 3 cards, and now you have a 5-card hand. You can kind of judge more or less what you've got. Then there's betting, if needed. Then there's one more card comes down. That card's called the turn card. Now that makes 6 cards in total that you have, but you only use the best 5. And then there's betting. And then the last card comes down. That's the river card, the river. And then there's betting. And assuming that people are still in the hand, then you have a showdown. You turn over your cards, and whoever has the best hand, best 5-card hand wins. Now, okay. Yeah, you can go to the bathroom, Link Banana. I think you probably already have mastered this first little part anyway. Now, the thing is about the best 5-card hand is that you run into like weird situations, but you just have to remember that it's absolutely the best 5 cards. Like you're going to take the best cards that's going to win you the hand. The extreme example is you have ace of clubs and ace of diamonds. And the 5 cards eventually that come down are all hearts. Well, you don't have a pair of aces anymore. You have a flush. Because there's 5 cards out there and you use the best 5 cards to make your hand. So you don't have aces anymore. You have a flush. All right. Seems like everything's cool here. Let's move on. Now, how the betting works. Players take turn betting. The first player to bet is to the left of the big blind, and I'm going to explain what the big blind is. And, betting proceeds clockwise around the table. So in other words, the first guy who's to the left of the big blind, he's going to decide what he wants to do. Then it moves to the next guy, next guy, next guy. Everybody has to take their turn. When all players that want to bet have put an equal amount of money into the pot, the betting round ends. Now, this is really important to know because basically before we can move on to the next card, everybody that wants to play has to put in exactly the same amount of money. And if you've never played poker before, you should really remember that because until everybody's put in an equal amount of money, the betting continues. There's one exception to that, which I will probably talk about a little bit later, but it's not a big exception. All right. At any point when it is your turn to bet, you can execute one of 4 actions. Actually, one of 3 actions because check is like a little bit weird. First thing you can do is you can fold. You give up your cards. You're not in the hand anymore. You lose any money that you already put in. Second thing you can do is call, which means you match any previous bets. Say like somebody bet 60 and then you put 60 in, that's a call. If there are no additional bets, you will see the next betting round. In other words, if it gets all the way around and everybody's put in the same amount of money, the next card comes down. So this allows you to see the next card. The third thing you can do is raise. Somebody bet 60 and you bet 150. You increase the previous bet, obliging the other players to call if they want to see the next betting round. Notice the tricky little thing about the raise is by putting more money in, those people that called, now they have another decision to make. Do I put the extra money in or do I fold? A raise can never be less than a previous bet. So say like somebody bet 60, well, you have to bet 120. You can't, like I raise you 10. Like you can't go, well, I bet 70 instead. You have to make it 120. All right? Is that clear? Are there any questions? Here's some abbreviations that we're going to be using. A is ace, K is king, Q is queen, J is jack. This is a biggie here. T is 10. Okay? And the rest of the cards are their number. The small little s means it's suited, and both cards are the same. That's usually, we're talking about your hand. Both cards that you have are the same suit. And offsuit, it means that the two cards you have are not the same suit. And so I might talk about 7-9 offsuit. That means it doesn't necessarily matter what the suits of the cards are. All you need to know is that there's two different ones. King, Jack suited. That means King and Jack both are the same suit, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. All right. In tournaments, the way a tournament works is everybody puts in some money, except in the case of a free roll where you just have to basically enter. You don't have to put any money in. And but most of the time you're going to have to put in some money of some sort, whether it's play chips or real money. So since we're talking about play money here, you're going to be putting in some of your play money. And everybody does the same thing. And then basically the top 2 or 3 people that are still alive will still get money. And play continues until one person has all the chips. That person's the winner, and he gets the lion's share of the money. The second and maybe third place, they don't get so much at all, especially third place. Say, like if it's 9-handed and top 3 are paid, third place, it doesn't make very much at all, but still it's better than losing. In a multi-table tournament, there can be hundreds or even thousands of players, and usually it's around the top 15% that win. In other words, you have to finish in the top 15% to get some money back for the money that you spent. And winning that thing, because there's hundreds of players each putting in a little bit amount of money, finishing on the final table or finishing in first place can really rock your world. You can get a lot of money that way. This is more like kind of grinding, like you'll never make a lot of money winning this, but you'll win, some money, which is better than nothing. Okay, everything cool. All right. Now, the trick about the tournaments, and this is the monkey wrench into the works, is the blinds. The small and the big blinds are mandatory bets that each player in turn must make. So in other words, you've got 6 people sitting around, and there's 2 people that have been decided, like by turning cards over, whatever, by luck, that you're going to be the big blind and the small blind. So then they have to pay money, and in the next hand, then that will all move to the left. In other words, with each new hand, the blind positions move to the left. That means that everybody's going to be taxed equally, or not necessarily equally, they'll be taxed, because sometimes it works out so that they're not taxed equally, but they will be taxed. So this is pretty much the reason why it moves around, is to make sure everybody has to pay. The big blind is a minimum bet. The small blind is half the minimum bet. So you might say, what's a minimum bet? Well, the minimum bet is the size of the big blind. But, and this is a big but, the size of the blinds increase with time. This is the tricky thing. For example, you start off with 1,000 chips, and the blinds, the big blind is 20 and the small blind is 10. So that's great, and you put in 20 and maybe you bet 40, you still have plenty of chips. But in 8 minutes or so, I'm just picking an example here, 8 minutes, the bet goes to 20 and 40. And then in 8 more minutes, it's going to go to 25 and 50. In 8 more minutes, it'll go to 150 and 75. And in 8 more minutes, it'll be 200, 100. 8 more minutes, it'll be 300, 150. In 8 more minutes, it'll be 500 and 250. So by doing that, they increase the size of the blind, and they increase the pressure of you to play, basically. That's a tricky little thing, which is actually pretty cool. Now, why do they put the blinds? It gets the betting started. In other words, if nobody put any money in, nobody would ever play unless they had aces. So that gets the betting started, and people want to win that extra money that's already been forced into the pot. It's to discourage too cautious play, folding all the time until you get a really, really, really good hand, because otherwise you will just keep paying the blinds and it's going to make your money go down. This is the big one, is to ensure that the tournament will end near a specific time by judiciously setting the size of your starting chip stack and the size of the blinds and the speed with which they go up. You can make a tournament last more or less long, which basically, I mean, you have the things like the turbos and stuff like that, where the blinds are quite big, they go up quite quickly, and you don't start with very much chips, and the game is over pretty quickly. There's the deep stack tournaments where you start with lots of chips, the blinds start off real small, and they don't go up very fast at all, in which case you're going to have a longer tournament on your hands. And to make the tournament more or less based on luck, which in my opinion is kind of matches what it says here in terms of ensuring the tournament will end near a specific time. The quicker the tournament ends, the more chance there is that the lucky person is going to be winning instead of the skillful person. The longer the tournament lasts, the more chance that the more skillful person will do better. All right, let's move on. Oh, good. We get to have some gameplay examples. All right, I forgot about this. All right, people, let's make it happen. Ding. Can you see that? Okay, so we're just going to look at just like how people are playing, just basically. This is a thing that will like play the handout every once in a while. Here you have the dealer button. That's the person who's... This is the way that the small and big blind are decided. First of all, somebody's decided gets the high card, like a random thing. They become the dealer, and then the next person there to the left becomes the small blind, and this guy is the big blind. He's the guy after that. You'll notice that right now the blinds are 600 and 1200, and it's up to Olive Man to act. And he folds. Eddy Vegas, he folds. And everybody's folding. They don't have any money, or they don't really want to deal with it. And everybody's folding, and this guy folds. This guy's not playing. And this guy decides to put 600 in. So now, this guy, actually, here's where that exception comes in. Notice that right now, the amount of money being put in is equal. All right? He's put in 1,200. This guy's put in 1,200. Normally, we should say, okay, I stop here, and we put down another card. But this is the only case where you don't necessarily have to stop. When it comes around to this guy, because he was obliged to put in his 1,200, he has the option to make it more, despite the fact that the money is equal. But that's the only exception to the rule. He decides to put in 600, and this guy, though, he can decide what he wants to do, and he decides he just wants to go ahead and play. So he doesn't want to bet anymore. Here comes the cards, ace, 5, 4. Nobody has really anything. This guy has a pair of fives. This guy has pretty much nothing. Anyway, let's see what happens. This guy decides to bet. He just really doesn't have anything, but he's just going to go ahead and bet, like a bluff. And this guy puts all his money in. He's got a pair of fives. He figures he's going to win. And the guy calls. Now all the money's in the middle. Like, in other words, this guy has no more money to bet. So now we're going to see all 5 cards. There's a 10. Doesn't really help. And another 10. Doesn't really help. And this guy with a pair of fives, he wins. Let's try this one. I fold. Oh, this guy is all in. I take it back. This guy is all in. Like, he was obliged to. The blinds have gotten so big, and he has so little money that he has to put his money in. This guy has ace-king, and he goes, well, I have a really good hand. I'm going to raise. And this guy, we don't know exactly what he's thinking about, but he decides to put his money in too. And this guy says, okay, never mind. There's betting. I have a bad hand. I'm going to fold. Here comes the cards. He's got ace-king. This guy checks, which means I'm passing the bet to the next guy. And this guy bets all in, even though he just has ace-high. Don't forget, he has ace-high, but he thinks he's got the best hand. He's going to go all in. And this guy folds. He turns over his ace whatever. And Osiris was never able to get a pair. So the ace high is going to win the pot. Here we've probably got an interesting hand. Let's go ahead and take a look. This guy folds, he folds, he folds, he folds. This guy raises. Of course, he got aces. Nice. This guy folds. This guy got king ace, and he decides to go all in. And Eddie here with his little 4-6 is going to fold, hopefully. And the aces call. Of course, he's got aces. He's going to call. Lucky thing for him. He's got 3 aces, which probably means he's going to win. And he does. Here's another hand here. Let's just see what happens. Notice how the blinds have been moving around the table. Also, that everybody's getting their turn to pay their 800 and their 1600. They fold. They fold. This guy raises to 3200. He folds. I'm like looking at my cards and I go, these are really not very good cards. 10-8. So I just go, okay, I fold. And this guy folds and this guy takes the pot. All right, so that's an example of a hand where literally you can bet. You don't necessarily have to get all the way down to the 5 cards. You can just say, well, I bet and I fold, and then they win. All right. One more example. Fold, fold, fold. There's a 1600 there. In other words, a call. This guy has called the bet. No, this is a forced bet, 800 and 1600. So this guy is a call, and we call that a limp. And this guy limps in too. He calls. I have nothing. I fold. This guy folds too. And this guy has the option of continuing to bet, but he decides not to. 5-6-3. The first guy says, I check. I don't want to bet yet. This guy decides he's going to bet because he's got a good hand. And that guy folds. And this guy folds. And they win. Okay, do I need to keep on going, or does anybody have any questions? Really, here I'm going to stop for like a minute and see if anybody's got any questions, but if I need to like keep on giving examples or if I haven't explained something really clearly. We're moving on to part 2 now. Here, I'll put on some soothing music while y'all think about whether so far so good. Okay, just gonna give it a chance to somebody to type out a question if they want to type out a question. Yeah, well, Jake, ha ha ha, you're so funny. Jake, don't forget to donate. Jake, donate to the cause, dude. All right. By the way, people, we do have 3 hours here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through part 2, and then we're going to do some gameplay examples of that, and then I'm going to play some tournaments and just see what happens. I'm going to try to follow my own rules for once and see if I do any good. All right, part 2 is entitled, What Should I Do? That's always the big question, isn't it? What should I do? Should I call or fold or raise or go all in or just give up poker? That's pretty much a lot of the questions that you're answering it while you're on the table. But I'd say the main question for like real beginners is they go, well, I only have 2 cards. I mean, how do I know what I have? You know, anything can come out. I mean, how do I know? Like maybe I have like a really bad hand, but I get like a bunch of cards come out on the flop that give me a really strong hand. It's possible. And I don't even know really like my 5 card hand yet. So how am I supposed to judge? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. That's what we're going to get into right now, is judging your hand. Don't forget, people. I mean, this guy, Howard Lederer, he's a professional poker player. He kind of turned into a big fucking asshole. But he did say one thing that I never forgot, is that the most important decision that you're going to make is whether to get into the hand or not. And as soon as you get into the hand, you've got to realize you're risking all your money because it's no limit hold'em, and at any point, when it's the guy's turn to bet, he can put it all in the pot. So you may as well just, you're going to have to deal with it, and that's what we're going to look at right now. Okay, in terms of like whether you should play and what you should do, there's actually 6 things you should look out for. There's 3 things that have to do with your hand, and there's 3 things that have to do with other people and like the situation, basically your situation at the table. So let's go ahead and move on. The first thing you want to look at with your 2 cards is high card strength. That's 2 big cards. And when I say 2 big cards, I mean 2 big cards. So big mistake that beginners make is they get like ace 4. And they go, good, I got an ace. Oh my God, I got an ace. Look at that, I'm doing good. I'm going to bet. Ace 4 is no good because it's not 2 big cards. You don't have a lot of high card strength when you have ace 4. And the worst case scenario is you get ace 4 and you go, oh my God, I got an ace. Oh my God, I'm betting. And somebody calls and an ace comes down. Comes ace 5, 6, something like that. And you go, oh good, I got a pair of aces. I'm betting. And the guy calls. And then the next card comes down, whatever. You still only have a pair of aces. You bet. And he calls, and then pretty soon you'll have lost like 2/3 of your stack or your whole stack, and the guy keeps calling. And he turns over ace king, and he had you beat with a better kicker. So that sort of thing. And really, when you're talking about high card strength, you're talking ace, maybe king. And I do emphasize the maybe. Basically, you get down to queen. Queen is not really that much high card strength, which makes hands like queen, jack, and stuff like that not really. I mean, okay, they're connected, but we'll talk about that in a second. But they're not really that good a hand. In terms of high card strength, queen is, pretty zero, really. And then anything else, jack and below, is forget it. Don't even talk about high card strength. All right. The next thing you look for is suitedness. That is to say, 2 cards of the same suit. It's a minor factor. In other words, if you have 2 big cards and they're both suited, well, that's not quite double good. It's 1.5 times good. You have a really good because you have 2 big cards, and you have a sort of good because you're suited. It's not like, oh my God, it's suited, it's a really good hand. It's not. So it's a minor factor, and the suitedness is good because it makes it easier to make a flush, and a flush is a really strong hand, and big cards helps. In other words, it's good to have 2 suited cards, but if you have a big suited card to go along with the other suited card, well, that's better than if you just have 3, 4 of diamonds or whatever. All right, my hand connectedness. So the other factor to look at is whether the cards are connected to each other, jack 10, 8, 9, 4, 5, whatever. These are good because it makes it easier to make a straight, and a straight's a really powerful hand that's going to win most of the time. But like the suitedness, it's a minor factor. Don't freak out just because it says 10 jack or whatever. And suited connectors combine the 2 qualities. In other words, 6, 7 both of diamonds, 10, 9 of hearts, whatever. That gives you kind of a extra super boost, but still, even added together, suited connector, I don't think it's as important as high card strength. High card strength is your best buddy. And in the rest of it, the suited and connector it's okay. I mean, it's good, it's better, but there's no sense in freaking out about it. It's not all that great, although it is sort of good. All right. Move on. Okay, this I copied off the internet, but we will just take a look at it here now. Actually, I don't even agree with this guy, but it's just to kind of give you an idea of what considered are the best hands in poker, in no limit poker, to help you judge a little bit whether you should play or not. So we have a pair of aces, we got a pair of kings, we got a pair of queens. Now, pretty much there's no disputing that. Those are pretty much the 3 best hands. I mean, everybody pretty much agrees. Then we have ace-king suited. We have ace-queen suited, and we have a pair of jacks. Yeah. Why not? All good. I mean, especially the suited thing. It gives the ace-king that little extra boost. Already it's a really, really, really good hand, and the suited just gives it that little extra oomph to it. Same with ace-queen suited and pair of jacks. This guy's opinion, king, queen suited, but now we get down to 7, 8, 9, 10, and a lot of times like people are disagreeing about this, but it's just, I mean, I'm not trying to put this out like a definitive thing. I'm not trying to put this out like a definitive thing at all. I'm just trying to give an example of what people think good hands are. So we have king, queen suited. We have ace, jack suited. This guy really likes the suited stuff. I mean, he puts like more emphasis on the suited stuff here because he puts in ninth place ace, king offsuit, which actually I would put higher. And even in number 10, he thinks that pocket tens are the 10 best hand, but some people believe that a suited king, jack is a stronger starting hand. So, I mean, like I say, it's just not to tell you, okay, these are absolutely the 10 best hands. It's like, it's like, done science or whatever, because it's not. And speaking of pocket pairs, I'm just going to look at pocket pairs because this is another mistake that beginners make a lot of times. They go like, "Oh, well, I got pocket fours. Oh my God, I got a pair. I'm going to win." Pocket fours, pocket threes, pocket twos are really not that good of a hand. I've been known to fold them, depending on the situation. I've also been known to raise with them, but usually fold. Just because it's paired, it doesn't really mean it's a good hand. Then we get to the pocket sixes, pocket sevens, pocket eights, pocket nines. Those are just really, really difficult to play. But once again, it's so easy for your pocket eights. Like you get pocket eights and you bet and somebody calls, and then it comes like king, queen, seven. And well, you go like, well, he could have a king, and if he didn't have a king, well, maybe he's got a queen. And then, so I don't know what happens, but say like he bets, and you've got to be looking at your eights and going like, well, he might actually have me, he might actually have like a better hand than me. So I don't really like my eights so much anymore, sort of thing. Get to the poker. It's coming, dude. It's coming, but it's a seminar, dude. It's a real thing. Like I'm going to take these kids of today, and when I finish with them, they're going to crush the tables. No, dudes. I'm sorry, but I'm just doing it. I don't care. I'm doing it. And I don't care what you think. Okay, the next thing is other people position. Like position is like this really huge fucking subject that I really can't talk about quickly. But let's just put it, your position is your position at the table with respect to the blinds. And the idea is once you've gone past the, well, let's even pre-flop, but say like you're playing and the other three cards come down. You want to be acting last. And that's what position is acting last. You can see what the other players do, then you decide. That gives you more information. It's an incredibly powerful tool. The dealer button, which we looked at a little bit when we were given our gameplay examples, is the best spot. It guarantees position no matter what, except actually pre-flop, but that's another story. But I mean, for where it really counts, the dealer button is the good spot to be. And being out of position, which is first to act. In other words, the betting is done for the two cards, and now the three cards come down, and you have to bet, and there's maybe two other people in the hand. That's a bad spot because then you're going to have to represent your hand, and you don't really know what they've got because they haven't bet yet. Okay, this is and it can be more important than your hand strength at times. Like, in other words, this is like when you have position, this is like you can tie this up with bluffing. And we're going to get into continuation bets there at the end of the thing. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about position? Because honestly, this is like a really this is a big thing. It's a big deal. I probably didn't make it as big a deal as it needs to be, but it really is a big deal. Like being able to act first and being able to act last, it's super, super important. All right, then, let's move on. Okay, and the final thing is the pre-flop action. We're still judging our hand. Your hand value goes down as the more people bet and raise in front of you. Okay, you've got pocket tens. And you go, oh, goody, I got pocket tens. I got 10-10. That's a really good hand. So the first guy, he raises. And then the next guy, he raises him. And then the next guy goes all in. and it gets around to you and you have pocket tens. Those pocket tens are probably, at the best, they're a coin flip and they're probably beat. So you may want to fold those pocket tens. That's the thing where you would go, oh, goody, I got pocket tens. I'm going like, I'm really happy. But that's the situation. On the other hand, say like you've got a kind of one of the better hands, say like a king jack or something like that, and you've got position, and so it goes fold, 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 and it goes around to you, and nobody's bet yet. Well, I would bet my king jack, because now I've got a good spot to, I'm not worried about what's come before. Everybody's out of the hand, so I don't have to worry about them anymore. So your hand value goes up. The more people fold before it is your turn to act, and that's another good reason to be in position, because if you're in position, then everybody acts before you, and you get to see them fold, and that will give you a better idea of what to do with your king jack. And then, you have the intangibles, and I'm not even going to get into that. But basically, it's like you sort of like watch the other players and figure out how they play. And how they've acted in the past. And this can help you decide what to do with your hand with your first two cards. Okay, so we've got to part 2 already. Good, that's all the basic stuff, and now we'll get to the post-flop play, which actually is a little bit more advanced, and it should be more interesting for you people. As for me, I'm going to take a really short break and get me some fizzy water. And I'll be back in a minute or so. All right, people. I'm back. Hold on. Let's get rid of this shit. All right, it's time for part 2, people. I hope the first part was clear. Was that Jahib that gave? Well, thank you, Jahib. We appreciate that large donation. I take back all the terrible things I said about you. You're actually a good guy. Actually, I'm just kidding about that. Okay, part 2 is post-flop play. This is like, I'm not going to get into like the entire thing, but once again, the idea is to give you enough skills to be able to beat the play money tables. You should be able to beat the play money tables with this information. You don't need like a lot of information, but you do need it. So this is all deals with when the 3 cards come down the flop, and now you have your 5-card hand, and now the situation is a little bit different because people know better what they have. So in this section, the first section is called Why. Next section is reading the board. Then we're going to talk about wet and dry flops. Then we're going to talk about outs and pot odds and the rule of 2 and 4 and putting it all together. And then finally the continuation bet, and then we're done. So let's get started. Okay, now basically in poker, I mean, like, this is like the philosophy of poker, but the whole thing about poker is like, why did that guy do that? Now, the answer to that question, we don't know, of course. We don't know why he did it. But the thing is that you have to leave your brain open for like all kinds of interpretations of why he did it. It may be because he's an idiot. It's likely even that he did it because he's an idiot. Or he's likely did it because his girlfriend told him to do it. Or maybe his hand slipped and he just clicked by mistake. Or maybe he actually does have a really good hand. That's why he did it. Or maybe he doesn't have such a good hand, but he thinks he's going to get a better hand. So that might be it. Or maybe he just doesn't like it that you're betting and he thinks you're bluffing, so he's going to call anyway. So, I mean, this is not really like training so much, but it is a way to think about it. Like, you always have to be asking yourself, why did the guy do that? Why did he do it? There's got to be some sort of reason, even if it's no reason. Even no reason is a reason. All right, let's move on. Okay, the first thing you do when the 3 cards comes down and figure out what you have. You should go like I have a pair of jacks with a 9 kicker. You can also look at it like, in other words, say like a lot of times the flop comes down 3 different cards. So you say like you have a king, a 10, and a 2. So if you have a pair of kings, then you have top pair. If you have a pair of 10s, then you have a middle pair. And if you have a pair of 2s, then you have bottom pair. And of course, it's good to have top pair because middle pair can always be beat by top pair. The other thing you want to look at when the 3 cards comes down is whether it's a wet flop or a dry flop. A wet flop is a board with suited or connected cards, preferably high, that are like next to each other. The examples here: queen, jack, and 9, all diamonds. 10, 8, 7 with 2 hearts. The hands that are kind of like, you know, connected and suited. We were talking about suited connectors and connectedness and suitedness. Well, that's what you're looking for when you're looking for a wet flop. You're looking. That's what like indicates danger for you. In other words, with his queen, jack, 9, any diamond is going to give the guy, you know, a flush draw. If he's got a 10, he's got 9, 10, jack, queen. All he needs is either a king or an 8, and he makes a straight. Same thing here. Maybe the guy's got 2 hearts. He goes like, oh, good, there's 2 hearts there, and I have 2 hearts. Maybe I'm going to make a flush. Or maybe he's got the 9, in which case he has, well, I got 10, 9, 8, 7. Great. Fantastic. I can make a straight. On the other hand, a dry flop is a board with mixed cards, preferably lowish, that pose little risk of making a straight flush or a big 2 pair. Like queen, 9, 2. The only really danger there with queen, 9, 2 is if the guy had 10, jack, which would give him queen, jack, 10, 9, which would be the open-ended straight draw. Or 10, 5, 3, all different suits, etc., etc. I can do it, dude. Not only, I'm almost done, to tell you the truth, Jeep. I'm almost done. Then we're moving on to gameplay. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is outs and pot odds. Understanding outs and pot odds will allow you to judge whether it's worth it to call a bet, although I'm not going to get into the math here very much. There's actually one example, but it's just basically you just want to be paying attention to it. Okay, what is an out? An out is a card that if it comes down will likely give you the best hand. Let's take an example. You have King Jack, and the flop, somebody's in the hand with you, and the flop comes down. It's like Ace, King, 4. And you have King Jack. So you go, well, I have a good hand. I got a pair of kings, but I could be beat by a pair of aces if the other guy's got an ace, which is, of course, usually that's what they're going to be doing is playing an ace. So I go, well, I probably don't have the best hand, but what would give me the best hand? Well, you could get a king. That would give you 3 kings, and you would have a really good hand, probably beat him. Or you get a jack. That would give you 2 pair. That would be good. So you count like how many cards are left to... You kind of count how many cards are left, and you add them up. So in this case here, you would say, well, let's see, Ace, King, 2. Is that what I said? Ace, King, 2, something like that. All right, so I have a king and a jack. So there's a king on the board, and I got a king, but there's 2 more kings in the deck, so that's 2 outs. And I could get a jack, too. That would give me 2 pair. There's 3 more jacks left. I have one of them, and there's 3 more in the deck somewhere. That's 3. 3 plus 2 equals 5. You have 5 outs. Okay, something you want to watch out for is false outs. In other words, you think it's going to give you the best hand, but it actually makes a situation where the other guy could have the best hand too. Like you have, I don't know, you have 10, 10, and the flop is like 9, 8, 6, or something like that. Well, if the guy's got a 7, then he's going to have an open-end straight draw, and so maybe if you get another 10, then that's going to give the guy 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and he will beat you. Even though you get, you make 3 of a kind there with your other 10. So that, you would look at your 10s and go like, well, the 10 would be maybe kind of a dangerous card. It's not a real out, but it's pretty good for an out, but maybe not like a really good out. All right, so that's the kind of thing to be watching out for. Now, pot odds is simply a comparison between the number of outs you have and the amount of chips necessary to call a bet. If the odds are in your favor, you should bet. Usually, I did have to add usually for all the expert poker players out there. If the odds are not in your favor, you should fold usually. You may as well just go like, just take off the usually for now if you're a beginning poker player and just go if the odds are in your favor, you should bet. So, to explain it, I'm not going to use like poker example. I'm going to try to use like more stupid examples that'll be easier to understand. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, first we start with a flip a coin example. Here you're gonna bet your friend $1. You both put in $1. If it comes heads, you win. If it comes tails, you lose. Or you can flip that coin a lot of times, and the more times you click it, the more it's going to be like so that it's pretty much even Steven. In other words, you're not winning or losing any money because it's 50-50 for the coin, heads or tails, and you're putting in $1 and. He's putting in $1, and so it's all pretty much even. Now, let's say you got like a really stupid friend, and he goes, hey, man, I'm going to bet you. He says, you give me $1 if it's heads, and I'll give you $2 if it's tails. Well, I would take that bet. I would go, great, dude, you're just giving away money. When I lose $1, but when you lose $2. I'm going to be making money this way. This is the sort of thing where you go like, man, that's crazy that somebody would do that, but that's what's happening in poker like a lot. Or let's take a more random example, the roulette example. Now here's something where this might be a little bit harder to understand, but I think you will. Like normally say, you've got 36 numbers on the roulette table, and let's say that on this roulette table you can only bet on a single number. And of course there's the 0 and the double 0, that's how the house makes their money. So let's say there's 38 slots and all. The house will give you 35 to 1. But they are actually, the odds actually of making your thing is 37 to 1. So you will lose money playing roulette. I mean, basically, that's the rule about roulette, is that you lose money playing roulette because the odds are stacked against you. But let's say that the crazy casino owner goes, today only for, 6 hours, we'll be giving away $100 for every dollar bet on a roulette table. We go, well, great, fantastic. But you're only allowed to put on single numbers. All right. Okay, dude. It's a bet there, Arcane Darkness. So let's say that they're giving away $100 if you make a $1 bet. Well, that's a good bet. You would lose 35 times, but you would win one time. And when you win one time, you win $100. So you would lose $35, but you win $100. So you're up like $65. Does that make sense? So, I mean, nobody would ever make a bet to flip a coin, or no casino owner in their right mind would ever give you $100 if you hit your number in roulette. But that's exactly what's happening in poker. People, they're overvaluing their hand, or they don't really know, or they're stupid or whatever, and you can bet like a little bit of money with the odds against you, like our example of the roulette, where the odds are actually against you 35 to 1. The odds are against you, but it's so little money. It's so little money to put in that it's actually worth it. Does that make sense? So that's the situation you want to be looking out for. Now we have like a really complicated example, which is probably going to turn everybody off, but we're almost done. People, we're almost done. We're going to get into the actual play. So here's the deal. It's like you got the Queen Jack of Diamonds and you have the dealer button. So you are in position. The blinds are 20 chips and 40 chips. Everybody has 1,500 chips. A player in front of you, you've got the button, so don't forget you're acting last. The player in front of you raises to 120. You think he has an ace. You've been watching this guy, and every time he turns over his cards, he's got an ace, whatever, ace 7 or ace 4, whatever. Well, it is, Jahib. It's a comparison between the amount of money that you can make over time and the amount of money it's going to cost you. But whatever. I'm going to continue on. You have the guy raises in front of you. You think he's got an ace. You've been watching him. You see him. He always turns over an ace. He thinks the ace is a good hand, so you think he's got an ace because he's betting. So you have big suited connectors. You have position, although you probably don't have as good a hand because of Queen Jack of Diamonds, but you call. So both blinds fold. They don't want to play. There's 300 in the pot. The flop is ace of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 2 of clubs. The player, because you have position, you're acting last. The player bets 30 chips. Now, you have 9 outs with the diamonds. If you get another diamond, you make a flush. And the other 3 kings, then we're not counting the king of diamonds because the king of diamonds gives you a royal flush. The other 3 kings will give you a straight. Those are 2 really good hands that are unlikely to be beaten. You add up 9 and 3, it gives you 12 outs. Oh shit, where was the rule of 2 and 4? Fuck. What the fuck happened to it? Oh shit, I missed it. Okay, sorry about that. So now that's the rule of 2 and 4. You multiply your outs by 2 to get the percentage chance of you getting your card on the turn, or the river. You multiply your outs by 4 to get the percentage chance of getting your card by the turn and river. In other words, both you get 2 chances to get your card instead of 1. All right, now it starts making a little bit more sense. You have 12 outs. 12 outs times 2, because we're looking at the next card, equals 24% chance of you getting your card on the turn. I always round it off, 25%, so you go like, well, I don't get it 3 times, but I get it 1 time. That's good enough. But it only costs you about 10% of the pot to call. It's so little money. So even though the odds are against you, you're not, the odds are 25% that you're going to get it 3 out of 4 times. You're not going to get it. The odds are against you. But it's so cheap that it's actually worth it. You're actually getting that situation like the roulette guy will give you 100 if you get your number. Okay, and since 24 is bigger than 10, you should call. You have a lot, even though you're probably behind, the guy's got an ace. These guys have got a pair of aces. You know that because you're pretty sure he's got an ace. So you're behind, but you know you could get your hand. Okay, that's the most complicated thing. We're almost done, people. Now, honestly, you don't need to work out the math. Just be aware of your chances to win and compared to how much it will cost you. That's the main thing. I mean, if you can get into the math later or whatever, the point is to be able to get you to win on the play money tables. That'll do it. This is indeed a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, and now we're going to get into one thing here, like a little bit of an advanced move. This would be like a bluff or something like that you could do, and it's a good thing to know about. It's called the continuation bet. It's a kind of bluff, and the deal is you have a good hand, like you have queen, king suited, and you raise, or maybe you don't have king, queen suited, but let's just say to make it easy, that you have king, queen suited, and you like your hand, and you're going to bet. Okay, so you've got your hand and you're going to bet. And, well, basically the continuation bet, man, I'm doing a really bad job here, aren't I? Anyway, the continuation bet is you raise pre-flop, and then you bet again on the flop. That's all there is to it. And when I say the story checks out, that means you go, well, I got this really good hand. And then the flop comes down, and you bet again, and you go, well, that flop, but he probably got it. So the story checks out for the other guy. It's likely that he's going to fold because you've already represented that you had a good hand pre-flop. You bet. So you have ace-queen offsuit. You raise pre-flop, and you get called. The flop is king 4-2. You don't have anything, but you bet anyway. Like in your mind, you go, oh, look, my king-queen just made top pair. I'm so happy. Like you change your hand to king-queen offsuit. You don't have ace-queen offsuit, you have king-queen offsuit. So you go, oh, look, my king-queen just made top pair, so I bet. The whole thing that makes a continuation bet work is the continuation part of it. In other words, you have to represent strength pre-flop, and then you represent strength on the flop, and then people go like, well, he did say he had a good hand. And that king, I mean, it's not out of the question. He's got a king. He bet again. I guess I'll fold my pocket sevens. Maybe. Something like that. Maybe I'll fold. In which case you bluffed him. You didn't have anything. The guy had pocket sevens. And you win without having the best hand. And finally, and I definitely need to put this, is that doesn't always work. And it doesn't always work. It's just a strategy that you'll want to try as a beginning poker player. It's a strategy that you want to try and see if it works and see how it works, and then you will go on from there. Okay, this is the last slide, people. Then we're going to go into the actual play. So the final words is like there's two ways of winning poker. There's tight aggressive and there's loose aggressive. Now I'm teaching tight aggressive. The loose aggressive is more complicated and it's easier for beginners to learn tight aggressive. You will still make money, it's correct. So I'm teaching tight aggressive, and tight aggressive is you wait for a good hand, and then pre-flop you raise, you bet, you say I have a good hand, and then when the flop comes down with the continuation bet, you continue to bet. Maybe you got top pair, maybe you made your top pair, you just bet. Whatever, you didn't make it, you bet anyway. And then, of course, when somebody calls or something like that, well, you're going to have to think about it, whether you're going to continue. Maybe you want to continue, maybe you don't want to continue. So you're going to want to have one of the really good hand. You come in raising, and you bet it strongly post-flop. In general. This is, like once again, nothing in poker is set in stone. In general is probably about the best way I could put it. You also want to raise every once in a while, and that's why I underlined it, the occasional suited connector or some sort of weird hand like a king 10 or something like that, but hardly ever at all. Usually it's best in the early stages of the MTT. And you fold everything else. Folding is good. people. I'm just going to tell you right now, that's why most people don't like poker. They go, man, well, when do I get to play? Well, if you don't have the patience to fold your hands, then it's likely you're going to be losing money. You've got to be ready to fold your hands. You've got a bad position. You go through the list that we looked at before. You look at whether you have high card strength. You look at whether you have suitedness, connectedness. Do you have position? What's the pre-flop action? All that stuff that I explained earlier. You look at it and you go, okay, forget it. This hand's no good. I'm folding. Folding is good, people. But if you take one thing away, it's like folding is good. You should always be aware of position. Because as I say, position, I barely was able to touch on it, but it's a super important thing. And position is where you're going to want to try to do your bluffs. Position is where you're going to feel the best about what you're doing. And out of position, you're not going to feel very good about what you're doing. So you really want to try to be, if you're going to be raising that strong hand, like I said at the beginning, wait for a good hand to come in raising. Let's hope that you're also in position, which is just another thing on your side that's going to help you win. And finally, good luck at the tables. All right.